Hi, my name is Jess and this is Reason. Today I'm with Lois Perry from Car 26 and we will be discussing net zero, fracking, and crazy environmentalist groups like Extinction Rebellion. Let's get the conversation going. Why is energy independence so important?
Without energy independence, we're dependent on everybody else. And you only have to look at what's going on in the Ukraine at the moment to see that us being dependent on other nations for our energy, which energy is absolutely everything, is ludicrous. And isn't it better to be independent? Isn't that what Brexit was supposed to be about? Having sovereignty and control over your own borders and your own energy and your own gas and everything else. Being as independent as possible can only be a good thing, and it's a libertarian thing as well.
So, how do we achieve energy independence, and what role do things like fracking come into it, and what do you think of the government's policies towards fracking?
Well, it depends which minute you're asking me, doesn't it? It depends which minute you're asking me about which government, who's the prime minister. Nobody knows at this precise moment in time. I don't want to date the interview by actually making any too many comments about what's going on in the last 10 minutes. Our prime minister gone, but yeah, I mean, fracking would make us completely energy self-sufficient by the 2030s, completely, and only take up 0.0002% of UK landmass in terms of the amount of land that would be required for it to do that. So yeah, I mean, absolutely, fracking is definitely part of the energy mix. But then we've got North Sea oil and gas. We've got lots of other things. Coal could even come back into it. It's being energy independent means that you are in charge of your own destiny. You don't have to get involved in so many wars. We don't have to go. We don't have to go over to Iraq and take all their oil and stuff, pretending that we're what's the word, freeing them from tyranny, whilst we're just shoring up our own energy independence. We don't have to do any of that stuff anymore. We can just get on with being British, which is what I think everyone really wants at the moment, just to get on being British.
What do you think about the concerns about fracking that it will, cause more earthquakes, about the risks surrounding fracking? Do you think they're legitimate concerns?
Well, the thing is, if you're going to ban fracking based on seismic events, earthquakes, what has occurred, if anything, is the same as me sitting on this chair, which, I'm not particularly skinny at the moment, but wasn't that much of a seismic event. But you'd have to actually ban quarrying, and you'd have to ban construction, and you'd also have to ban all other. In fact, a lot of the green things that are happening at the moment actually cause seismic events, which are much more consequential. So, it's not a level playing field at all. And Ed Davey actually boasted that he reduced the limits of seismic activity so much, fully intentionally, to stop fracking. So I'm not. I don't have. The other thing as well. You know as well as I do that in the USA there is no more nation in the world more litigious than the USA. You've got 15 million people living within 1 mile of a fracking site. Come on, you really think that there wouldn't be lawsuits flying all over the shop if it was that dangerous? So no, I'm not. I'm not particularly concerned about it at all. And in actual fact, a lot of the fracking companies have said that they'll give local householders either free energy or massively reduced energy for life. So, or for at least a sustained period of time. So, their house prices, but surely will be going up, not down, which is what a lot of the greenies' argument is. So, yeah. So no, I'm not particularly concerned. But as I say, it's part of an energy mix. So yeah.
What do you think of this climate hysteria that's come about recently? We've seen with, I think it was Animal Rebellion, who were pouring milk on the floor, and I don't know which environmental group it was, but the one who threw soup at a painting. What do you think about their responses? Do you think we should be afraid of climate change? Do you think their reactions are appropriate.
Those particular individuals, bizarrely, it was in the Mail Online yesterday or the day before, are being funded by the people who benefit the most from the oil and gas price being very high. So Just Stop Oil is being funded by people that make money off of oil and gas. So if you limit the supply of oil and gas, what happens? Price goes up. So it's complete fake nonsense. But unfortunately, the kids that are doing it, the young people that are doing it, really do believe it, and a lot of them do look like they need a. I'm not being dismissive at all, but there has been some individuals that don't look that well, in terms of how they're coming across, how they're presenting. They look like they might need some professional help rather than being given a paint can and stuff and sent out onto the streets. I mean, the guy the other day that spray painted, I think it was the Bentley garage, or no, the Aston Martin garage in London. He looked completely deranged. And no, we don't need to worry about climate change, because climate always changes. It's changed forever, and it's absolutely nothing to do with CO2 whatsoever. And unfortunately, although they are getting a voice now, the hundreds of thousands of scientists that disagree with the theory, and it's only a theory, that CO2 causes any problems with the climate or global warming or whatever nonsense they're coming up with on that day of the week, have been no platformed, have been sacked from their jobs, they've had their families hounded, their bins gone through, they've been pilloried, and the modern equivalent of putting people in stocks and throwing vegetables at them or being burnt at the stake. But fortunately, there's safety in numbers. And since I started Car 26, my group last year, that's Climate Analysis Reason, I like to think that a combined effort of what I've been doing and what other fabulous groups have been doing, they're not quite as extreme as me, but there always has to be one, has made a difference. And we've got lots of scientists now. I mean, just recently, 1,100 scientists signed a thing called the Clintel Declaration, and one of the guys that was actually the top guy in it has won a Nobel Prize. Yeah, these are not nutters. These are not nobodies or Joe Blogs down the pub, right? These are proper scientists and experts in their field. And they said there's no link to CO2 causing any problems with the climate. In fact, there's no more extreme weather events now than there's ever been. And it's been a lot hotter than now. In the medieval period, there's a thing called the medieval warm period, also the Roman warm period, where they were growing grapes in Manchester. Now, I don't know if you've ever been to Manchester, but it's not renowned for its vineyards now, is it? There wasn't many cars around then, was there? So maybe it's all a complete load of nonsense.
Why do you think the environmentalist movement has attracted so many young people? I remember when I was in year 10, it was almost encouraged. Um, I, d- I forgot what the exact thing. I think this is when Greta Thunberg came about, like, her prominence was. It was encouraged for kids to, like, skip school on Friday to go to these environmentalist campaigns. And you've seen, like, this sort of romanticization of climate activism. Why do you think it attracts so many young people?
I think, to a large extent, religion used to be a massive part of everyone's lives. It still is for a lot of people, not anywhere near as many as it used to be. And there's something really alluring about things that have all of the symbols, like the saint Greta, and all of the that you're doing a good thing with sacrifice. This has got all of the things to do with a religion, or even a cult, and it is very, very attractive. I mean, you can walk around, you can have a sense of self-righteousness. I'm not saying religious people have this, but I'm just saying the bastardized version of it that's been taken on by the green movement. You could say that you're better than your parents because you don't do this or you don't do that, and I'm better than you because I'm vegan, I care more about the planet. There's also a sort of almost pagan earth worship element to it. And but ultimately, the aims of these people is to reduce the population of the planet, because to save the planet. When they're talking about net zero, what they're talking about is a reduction in people. And that's why a lot of these people talk about not having kids and stuff like that. But to get people not to have children, not to procreate, which is basically the oldest instinct of all, going back to the Garden of Eden, you've got to terrify the living shit out of them, haven't you? So, so again, that goes back to biblical type stuff. Hell and damn fire, the end of days. Great floods and pestilence and famine. It's all out of the playbook, I'm afraid. And yeah, it is appealing. And kids are being brainwashed. They are. There's no ifs, no buts about it. They are. You've even got a God type figure in Attenborough. So you've got the little Saint Greta, and then you've got the God David Attenborough, who will openly do interviews and say we need to reduce the world's population by 90%. Now, that's not my idea of a cuddly granddad. Someone who wants to slaughter 90% of the world's population.
What do you think about the government's net zero agenda? I know we've seen it like sort of shoved to the back now. Well, when Liz Truss was in power, I guess we should say now. But Boris was very pressed on it. What do you think about that?
The net zero agenda is nothing to do with the climate and absolutely nothing to do with saving the planet, and is everything to do with making us more able to be controlled and restricted. I mean, the whole aims are for there to be no private car ownership within 20 years, for people to be able to, within 10 minutes, a walk of their house, buy all the things they need. Not, but don't forget, be the government deciding what you need, not what you think you need. As I say, even with electric vehicles, which only the very rich will be able to afford, they will be all Wi-Fi enabled. They'll be able to be remotely switched off. They will be able to be remotely disabled. You will never have any privacy ever again. Yeah, I mean, net zero means no private enterprise. It means no commerce, which means that you have communism, where everybody gets their money from the state. Because if you've got no energy, which there would be with net zero, because you can't, there is no life without CO2. There is no life without energy. And all of these green energies are made using coal and stuff like that, because wind power and solar are a farce and a fake joke. And your people need to have absolutely no misunderstandings about that. It can't be stored. It's heavily subsidised. And those wind turbines you see going around, they're powered by gas, 100% gas backup. The whole thing is ludicrous. So basically, a net zero agenda is an agenda of the hard left. It really is, and absolutely nothing to do with saving the planet whatsoever. Nothing. But the brilliant thing is, they convince young people that they're being rebellious by campaigning for it, and actually they're just like in Pink Floyd, The Wall. They're just like the kids, just sort of like, just doing what they're told, not even thinking. And it's a shame. It really is. We just need to stop the Just Stop Oil, I think. Just stop them. Just stop net zero. That's what we need to do.
Do you think this is an attack on capitalism and freedom?
Almost entirely, if not entirely. Yeah, completely. Capitalism and freedom. If you do not have cheap, plentiful energy, which we've got, by the way, we've got 500 years of shale gas underneath us right now, and high quality shale gas. If we don't have cheap, plentiful energy that's ours, there's no life. There's no. They talk about blackouts. What are you guys going to do? And there's no Wi-Fi for 2 hours. You're going to think you're not alive. I mean, you've actually got some books behind you, but I know a lot of young people haven't got any books. They probably wouldn't know picking it up and doing this with it. Try and eat it. And the thing is, you won't be any light to read anyway, so you have to have a candle. They talk about 2-hour blackouts in the evening at the beginning of next year. I mean, can you get your head around that? Because I can't. Yeah, I mean, my dad told me about the 1970s where there was blackouts and he was reading by candlelight and all of that. But that was before the internet. I mean, everything runs off the internet. You've got some people who won't be able to open and close their curtains in their house because they've got Wi-Fi enabled stuff in their house. Or it's going to be absolutely terrifying. So yeah, maybe that might wake younger people up. That maybe that might do it. Think, oh my god, I can't charge my phone. It's the end of days. I'm being simplistic, but sometimes people need to realize what it's like not to have energy, to realize that we need to do what we need to do to keep the lights on, literally. So, yeah.
Do you think there's much hope that people will see the craziness of environmentalism with groups like yours, but also with the fact that I don't think the public is in favour of these radical environmentalist groups? Like, I don't think the public thinks it's a good look when they're blocking the roads and blocking the ambulances for people's safety. Do you think there's any
Yeah.
hope of that?
Yeah, I do. I mean, we've seen massive increases in support for what we're doing since we started in October last year. We did some polling while Liz Truss was running, and for leader of the Tories and for Prime Minister. Oh God, but that worked out well, didn't it? But our polling showed that the majority of the British public across everybody wanted a pause and review on net zero. The majority, and of Conservative voters, 70%. And that included the Conservative voters, everyone who voted Conservative at the last election. So that would also include all the red wall seats that Boris got and all of that. So yeah, the public are on side. They're very pro fracking. It's quite interesting to note that all of the hustings, the leadership hustings with Sunak and Truss recently, when they talked about fracking, the whole place went up the cheer, because if you're, especially if you're a Brexiteer and you like the idea of personal and sovereign autonomy, then this is a key component to that. And then we're not held to ransom by anybody else. What why should we be held to ransom? So yeah, I do think, and also going with what you were saying as well, the Stop Oil people, yeah, they're shooting themselves in the foot. Absolutely, people hate them. They really do.
Thank you, Lois, for joining me on this interview, and thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I'm Jess Gill, and this is Reasoned. Thank you. Goodbye.